this channel, and in this video we are going to be looking at the quadratic theory, how we can relate to the sum, the product, right, and other stuff like maybe the sum of the squares of the roots of a quadratic equation and others. So first of all, looking at the general quadratic form, ax squared plus bx plus c equal to 0, right? One stuff to know about this is that if you should consider the roots of the equation to be what, alpha and beta, the sum of the roots of the equation is given by negative b over a, while the product is given by what, c over a. So I'll just take you through how this came about, and then we go through questions that would help us, right? So if we say that the roots are alpha and beta, we could take the alpha to the left hand side. It becomes x negative alpha equal to 0 and x negative beta equal to 0, right? So we can then multiply these two to get the quadratic equation involved, and that will be x negative alpha into x negative beta, and then an expansion, x times x is what, x squared, negative alpha times x is negative alpha x, and then negative beta times x is negative beta x, and then negative alpha times negative beta is positive beta x, positive beta alpha, sorry. And then on factorization, you can see that negative is common and x is also common, so we can have x squared negative x into negative alpha x divided by negative x to leave us with alpha, and negative beta x, right, divided by negative x to leave us with positive beta, and then plus beta alpha. And so we can see that from this equation, this is equal to 0. So you can see that from this equation, you can be able to derive the sum, and you can be able to derive the product of the roots, which is alpha plus beta and what, beta alpha. So on comparing it with this now, ax squared plus bx plus c equal to 0, we have to divide through by a, so that just like this one right here, the coefficient of x will be 1. So dividing through by a, right, that will be, a cancels a, that will be x squared plus bx over a plus c over a equal to 0. And then we can compare the product, that is, we can compare alpha beta to what, to c over a. So that now tells us that this product of the roots is simply c over a. And then for the sum, you can see that it's not positive x, right? So it's negative x into what, look right here, negative x into alpha plus beta. So we will now compare it with what, bx over what, alpha. Do you get? So our aim is to get alpha plus beta, right? So this x can cancel this, and then we will have negative alpha plus beta is equal to what, b over a, right? Then you can take the negative to the right hand side. Then that now tells us that what, alpha plus beta is what, negative b over a, and that alpha beta, which is the product, will be what, c over a. So if you are given this question now, if you are given a quadratic equation in the form 3x squared negative 4x plus 7, sorry, equal to 0, and you ask what's the sum of the roots, the simple answer to this is what, negative b over a. And in this case, b is negative 4, right? So that will be negative 4 over a, which is 3. Do you get? So that will be 4 over 3. And then if you're asked for the product of the roots, what's it going to be? It's going to be c over what, a, which is what, 3. So that gives us the product of the roots. Do you understand? Then let's take another question now. 3 over 2x squared plus 4 over 7x plus 6 equal to 0. So if you're asked to find the sum, what's it going to be? It's going to be negative b over a, right? That will be negative 4 over 7, which is b, over a, which is 3 over 2. And then on simplifying that, that's going to be negative 4 over 7 times 2 over 3, because it's kind of like a division. Do you get? So negative 4 times 2 is negative 8, and 7 times 3 is going to be 21. So this is the sum of the roots. And then for the product, which is alpha beta, is simply what, c over a. And in this case, c is what, 6, and a is what, 3 over 2. So that will be 6 over 3 over 2, which will be what, 6 times 2 over 3. And 6 times 2 over 3 will be what, 6 divided by 3 is 2. Then 2 times 2 will be what, 4. Please do well to subscribe to this channel, like this video, Also do well to share after you've watched it. I hope you're enjoying the video. So let's continue with other more compound problems associated with this that would require us to make use of alpha plus beta and alpha beta. So let's say you are given this now. You are given an equation x squared negative 4x plus 7 equal to 0, and the question says find alpha squared plus beta squared, right? So this is a question. So what you do about this is that you know that from the general form we looked at when we were trying to derive negative b over a and c over a, right? You can see that we cannot comfortably get the value of alpha squared plus beta squared, right? Do you get? So the best way to do it is to kind of like simplify it or change the form of alpha squared plus beta squared such that what happens, it will be in terms of alpha plus beta and what alpha beta, because once we can get these two values, the work is done. So the simple way to achieve this is to simply find the square of alpha plus beta, because you discover that if you square alpha plus beta, you're going to have alpha squared plus beta squared in it, and then from there you can then substitute alpha plus beta and what, alpha beta, right? So alpha plus beta all squared will be equal to what, alpha plus beta into what, alpha plus beta. So alpha times alpha is what, alpha squared, plus beta times alpha is alpha beta, plus alpha times beta is what, alpha beta again, and then beta times beta is what, beta squared. So you can notice now that alpha plus beta all squared is equal to alpha squared plus, I'm bringing this here, plus beta squared plus 2 alpha beta. So your aim now is to make alpha squared plus beta squared, which you are looking for, the subject of the formula. So this positive alpha beta could come to the left and it will now be what, alpha plus beta all squared negative 2 alpha beta is equal to what, alpha squared plus beta squared. So this is like an important identity you need to know, right? And you see how I achieved it by squaring alpha plus beta. I knew that it would contain alpha squared plus beta squared, so I took advantage of that. So the simple question now, from what I've taught, pause the video and then determine the sum and the product of the roots of this equation, right? So if we are to find the sum is simply negative b over a, right? So in this case it's going to be what, negative, that's negative 4 over what, 1, because in this case a is 1, so that will be what, 4. So the sum of the roots is 4. That means that alpha plus beta is what, 4, and then the product, which is alpha beta, is what, c over a, and in this case c is what, 7 and a is 1, so that will be what, 7 over 1. So we now go to what we have here and substitute. Since we say alpha plus beta is 4, right, so it will be 4 squared negative 2 into alpha beta, and we got alpha beta as 7, right? So that will be what, 16 minus, because 4 squared is 16 minus 2 times 7 is 14, right? So that will be what, 2. That means that the value of alpha squared plus beta squared is equal to what, 2. So this is a very important identity. You can be given a quadratic equation and then you're asked to find, you can be asked find the sum of the squares of the roots, or alpha squared plus beta squared is simply what, alpha plus beta all squared minus 2 alpha beta. Then another way you could be asked is in the case of alpha cube plus beta cube. It's still the same principle. All you need to do is to cube what, alpha plus beta. I know that alpha plus beta all cubed is the same thing as what, alpha plus beta into what, alpha plus beta into what, alpha plus beta. And then you know that alpha plus beta times alpha plus beta is what, alpha plus beta all squared into what, alpha plus beta, and this is equal to what, alpha plus beta all cubed, right? And remember that we've gotten the value of alpha plus beta all squared as what, this right here, as alpha squared plus beta squared plus 2 alpha beta. So we can now just simply do that here. That will be what, alpha squared plus beta squared plus 2 alpha beta into what, alpha plus beta. Then on expansion of this, alpha times alpha squared is alpha cubed, plus that will be alpha beta squared plus 2 alpha squared beta. Do you get what I'm doing? I'm doing this times this, that's this times this times this, and then alpha times 2 alpha beta, then beta times alpha squared is going to give us alpha squared beta plus beta squared times beta, that will be beta cube. Then 2 alpha beta times beta will be 2 alpha beta squared. Do you grab? So from this point now, you can now see that the alpha cube plus beta cube you are looking for is inside here. Do you get? So you can bring them together as alpha cube plus beta cube plus, you can see like terms here. Alpha beta squared can go with these 2 alpha beta squared. So alpha beta squared plus 2 alpha beta squared is what? 3 alpha beta squared. Then 2 alpha squared beta plus alpha squared beta will give us what? 3 alpha squared beta. Right? So all of this is equal to alpha plus beta all cube. So from this point, you can see that they can be like a factorization here. Is equal to what? Alpha cube plus beta cube. And then you can notice that 3 alpha beta is common, because alpha beta can divide alpha beta squared, right? And it can also divide alpha squared beta. So, and 3 is also common, right? So if we factor out 3 alpha beta, 3 alpha beta squared, look here, 3 alpha beta squared divided by 3 alpha beta will be left with just beta, right? Plus 3 alpha squared beta divided by 3 alpha beta will be left with what? Alpha. So making alpha cube plus beta cube the subject, you will carry this positive 3 alpha beta into beta plus alpha to the left hand side of the equation to now become what? Alpha plus beta all cube minus 3 alpha beta into what? Beta plus alpha, and that will be equal to what? Alpha cube plus what? Beta cube. Do you get it? So your job now is to ensure that you get correct values of alpha plus beta and what? Alpha beta, so that you just directly substitute it. So for the case of what we've been given now, let's say you are given this, let's say it's still the same equation of x squared negative 4x plus 7, right? Let's say the same equation, x squared negative 4x plus 7, and we are asked to find alpha cube plus beta cube, right? So in this case, we say that the sum is what? 4, because that's negative b over a, and then the product is what? 7. So if we substitute it in this, that will be alpha plus beta all cube, that will be 4 cubed minus 3 into the product, which is 7, into beta plus alpha, which is same thing as alpha plus beta, which is what? 4. Then on simplification, 4 cubed is what? 64 minus 3 times 7 is what? 21, right? And 21 times 4 is going to give us 84. So 64 negative 84 is what? That's minus 20. Do you get? So this is the value of what? Alpha cube plus beta cube for this equation. Do you grab? So that's what you do. So you could easily derive it, or you just remember that alpha cube plus beta cube is equal to what? Alpha plus beta all cube minus 3 alpha beta into beta plus alpha. Very simple. So we'll take another. I want you to pause the video and attempt it by yourself. Do you get? So if you are given this equation now, 3x squared negative 5x plus 3 equal to 0. You are given this in the exam, Maths 101, and you are asked, first of all, they will tell you alpha and beta are the roots, right? And then it says find alpha cube plus beta cube. So I want you to pause the video, following the principle I followed some minutes ago, and then use it to get the answer to this question. Have you paused the video? Okay, pause. So to solve this, you follow the same principle, knowing that alpha cube plus beta cube is equal to what? Alpha plus beta all cube negative 3 alpha beta into what? Alpha plus beta. Do you get? So with that, you say that alpha cube plus beta cube. So what is the sum of the roots of this equation? It's simply what? Negative b over a, right? And what is our b? Negative 5. So that will be negative 5 over a, which is what? 3 in this case. And that's what? 5 over 3. And alpha beta will be equal to c over a. and that will be what? C in this case is 3 and A in this case is still 3, so that's 3 over 3, which is 1. So we simply substitute, and that is going to be what? 5 over 3 raised to the power 3 minus 3 into the product, which is 1, into what? Alpha plus beta, which is what? 5 over 3. So on simplification, we'll have that alpha cube plus beta cube is equal to 5 cube is 125, 3 cube is going to be what? 27, because that's 3 times 3 times 3. The negative 3 times 1 is 3 times 5, 15 over 3, which is 125, sorry, over 27 minus 15 divided 3 is what? 5. So we then simplify this fraction. We now have that alpha cube plus beta cube is equal to 125 over 27 minus 5 over 1. And then taking the LCM, 27 divided by 27 is what? 1. So 1 times 125 is what? 125. Negative 27 divided by 1 is 27. Right, so what's 27 times 5? 27 times 5, that's 5 to the third, and then 5 times 2, that's 10, plus 3, that's 135, right? So 125 negative 135 is going to be what? Negative 10, and then negative 10 over what? 27. So that's alpha cube plus beta cube for the equation. I hope that's what you got, right? So that's a very important stuff, especially for this course, Maths 103. They are likely to ask you questions on that's some of the cubes of the roots, right? So let's say you're given this equation now. X cubed negative 6x plus 3 equals 0, right? And the question says if alpha and beta are the roots, find 1 over alpha plus 1 over beta. This is very simple. When you look at it, I've already given you clues. If you are given alpha squared plus beta squared, all you need to do is to square alpha plus beta. And on doing that, you'll notice that you have alpha squared plus beta squared inside that expansion. And then on making alpha squared plus beta squared the subject, you get what? Alpha plus beta all squared minus what? 2 alpha beta. So that's the same thing here. That was what we actually thought of to actually get that value, because you cannot get it directly from the equation. You get, so in this case you will seek of a way to actually simplify this, right? So if you simplify this using the LCM of alpha and beta is what? Alpha beta, right? That will be alpha beta, and alpha beta divided by alpha is what? Beta, and alpha beta divided by beta is what? Alpha. So all you simply need to do is to divide the sum by the what? Product. So what's the sum of the roots of this equation? Is what? Simply what? Negative b over a, and in this case b is negative 6, so that will be negative 6 over a, which is what? 1. So that will be 6. And then what's the product? So that's what? C over a, right? And in this case c is 3 and a is 1, so the product is 3. So all you simply need to do is to substitute. So since the sum is 6 and the product is what? 3, that means it's simply what? 2. So are you seeing how we've now gotten it? By simplifying, we can now get a combination of what? The sum and the product. That will now help us arrive at our answer, because you are starting to get the roots, get the other root and start simplifying is time consuming, right? And you don't have time. You get, so you can simply simplify, and then you have a relation that combines the sum and products of the roots, and then you can simply just substitute. You get. So let's say we are given this same question, this same equation, x squared negative 6x plus 3 equals 0. If alpha and beta are the roots, and the question says find alpha over beta plus beta over alpha. If you are asked this question, what do? Don't panic. You simply simplify the what? Expression by taking the LCM. This is alpha over beta plus what? Beta over alpha. So if we take the LCM, which will be what? Alpha beta, we're going to get what? Alpha beta divided by beta will leave us with alpha. So that alpha times this alpha will be what? Alpha squared plus alpha beta divided by alpha is what? Beta times beta, that's what? Beta squared. And then you know that we've learned what alpha squared plus beta squared is. Alpha squared plus beta squared is the same thing as what? Alpha plus beta all squared minus what? 2 alpha beta. So all over what? Alpha beta. The goal of all this is to simplify such that you will now be able to substitute alpha plus beta and you'll be able to substitute what? Alpha beta, right? So in the case of this equation, we say that the sum of the roots, we got it at 6 and the product was what? 3. So we simply substitute. So that will be what? 6 squared negative 2 into what? The product, which we got as what? 3, right? All over 3. So 6 squared is what? 36 minus what? 2 times 3 is what? 6 over what? 3. 36 minus 6 is what? 30 over 3, which is what? 10. So that implies that alpha over beta plus beta over alpha is what? Is 10. Do you understand? So just look at what you are given, and whatever you are given, try and simplify it. Do you guess? In this case, we simplified by getting the LCM, and then at the end of the day, we have a mixture of what? Alpha plus beta and alpha beta, which we cannot directly substitute and get our desired results. So another important thing for this course, right, is for you to be able to find the difference between roots. Very important, please. Right? So this is very simple. The principle on how you could get this alpha negative beta. You know that from the equation, what did we get from the equation? We got x squared negative x into what? Alpha plus beta plus what? Alpha beta equal to what? 0. So this is not the case of powers where maybe you are asked alpha squared plus beta squared. You get, this is just alpha negative beta, and there is no connection with that from this equation, right? So the only way out is for you to square alpha negative beta. Do you get? You get something. So if you square alpha negative beta, that'll be alpha negative beta squared is equal to what? Alpha negative beta into what? Alpha negative beta. So multiplying through, you have alpha squared negative what? Negative beta times alpha is what? Negative alpha beta, and then this times this is still negative alpha beta, and then negative beta times negative beta is what? Positive beta squared. So what can we see? We can now see that alpha negative beta all squared is equal to what? Alpha squared plus beta squared negative what? 2 alpha beta. Do you get? Your goal is to get the value of what? Alpha minus beta. So you can notice that this alpha squared plus beta squared can still be simplified with what we just studied few minutes ago. We said that alpha squared plus beta squared is equal to what? Alpha plus beta all squared minus what? 2 alpha beta. So we can now replace it as what? Alpha minus beta all squared is equal to what? Alpha plus beta all squared minus 2 alpha beta, right? This is the value of alpha squared plus beta squared, then minus 2 alpha beta again. Do you understand? So that will be alpha minus beta all squared is equal to alpha plus beta all squared, then minus 2 alpha beta minus 2 alpha beta will be what? Minus 4 alpha beta. And then on making alpha minus beta the subject of the formula, we'll find the square root of both sides, right? And then we left is the square root of alpha plus beta all squared minus what? 4 alpha beta. So you see the trick there. You try to square it such that we'll now get a combination of what? Alpha plus beta and what? Alpha plus beta and alpha beta, which we can now directly substitute. Do you understand? So let's say you're given this question now. X squared negative 5x plus 6 equal to 0. And it says that alpha and beta are the roots. Right? It now says find alpha minus beta. What do? Square root of what? Alpha plus beta all squared minus what? 4 alpha beta. Sorry about that. So in this case now, what's alpha plus beta? What's alpha plus beta? Negative b over a. B is negative 5, so that's negative 5 over what? A, which is 1. So the sum is what? 5. So that will be square root of what? 5 squared minus, what is the product from this? Is what? C over a, right? And C is 6 and a is 1. So alpha beta is equal to what? 6. So that will be 5 squared minus 4 into what? 6, right? So that will be the square root of what? 25 minus 4 times 6 is 24, right? And that will be what? The square root of 1, which is what? Is plus or minus 1, right? It can either be plus 1 or negative 1. Do you understand? So that gives you the difference between the roots, because difference could be positive difference or negative difference, right? So can either be positive 1 or negative 1. So that's it. So I want you to do this yourself. If you are given this question now, I asked for alpha minus beta, what will be the answer? Pause the video and attempt it, please. Right, so if you're asked this, all you simply need to do is to say what? That alpha minus beta is equal to the square root of alpha plus beta all squared minus what? 4 alpha beta. So what's alpha plus beta here? Is what? Negative b over a, which is what? Negative 6 over 1, which is what? 6. And then c over a is equal to 8 over 1, which is what? 8. Right, so simply substitute. So that will be alpha minus beta is equal to the square root of alpha plus beta, which is what? Alpha plus beta is 6, right? So that will be 6 squared minus 4 into alpha beta, which is what? Alpha beta is 8. You get? So that will be square root of 36 minus 4 times 8 is what? 32. That will be square root of 36 minus 32 is what? 4. And what's the square root of 4? Plus or minus what? 2. You get? And if you should have even solved for the roots of this equation, you realize that the roots are what? What will be the roots? You have that x is equal to 2 or what? X is equal to 4. So if you find the difference between these roots, it's either what? 4 minus 2 or what? 2 minus 4. It depends on which side you are taking it from. That's why the answer is what? Plus or minus 2. You get? But the absolute answer is what? 2. Is okay, right? So another way you could be asked this question in exam is when you are given a quadratic equation. Let's use this case, x negative 6x plus 8 equals to 0, and the question now says find alpha squared negative beta squared. Do you understand? So if you are given this now sorry, you can understand the property of difference of two squares, which says that a squared negative b squared is equal to what? A plus b into what? A minus b. Do you get? So alpha squared minus beta squared is the same thing as what? Alpha plus beta into what? Alpha minus what? Beta. So alpha plus beta is very easy to get, but you know that alpha negative beta is what? Alpha plus beta into what? The square root of alpha plus beta all squared negative what? 4 alpha beta. So this is what you are going to solve when you are asked for alpha squared minus beta squared. So what's alpha plus beta? We've mentioned it is what? 6 into what? The square root of what? Alpha plus beta all squared is what? That's what? 6 squared minus 4 into what? Alpha beta. What's alpha beta? Alpha beta is alpha beta is 8, right? So that's 6 times the square root of 36 minus 32, right? So that's 6 times the square root of 4. That'll be like 6 times 2, which is what? 12, right? 12. Or you could say this is the absolute answer, but you know that the square root of 4 can be what? Plus or minus 2, right? So that's what? Plus or minus 12. But the absolute answer is what? 12, right? If maybe they are taking talking of the question in terms of the positive difference. The absolute answer is 12, right? So attempt this. If you are given x squared negative 7x plus 12, and I ask you what's the value of alpha squared minus beta squared, what will be your answer? Pause the video and attempt. Pause the video and attempt. So to solve this is simply what? Alpha plus beta into what? Alpha minus what? Beta. So what's alpha plus beta? Is simply what? 7, right? It's simply 7. So 7 times the square root of what? Alpha plus beta squared minus what? 4 alpha beta. So that will be 7 times the square root of what's alpha plus beta is what? That's 7 squared minus 4 into what? Alpha beta, which is what? 12. You get? So that will be what? 7 times the square root of what? 49 times 4 times 12 is what? Is 48, right? So that will be 7 times the square root of 1, which is what? 7 or what? Minus 7, which is what? Plus or minus what? 7. But I've told you the absolute answer. If maybe it's asking an objective, you are most likely to see 7. If you want to be more particular, you see plus or minus 7, because the square root of 1 could be 1 or it could be what? Minus 1. Do you grab? So that's why it's that way. But the absolute answer is what? 7. But most ideally, we have plus or minus 7. You get? Then the last thing I'm going to look at in this video is your ability to be able to calculate the value of alpha cube minus beta cube. This is another question you could be asked. And the best way to tackle this is for you to understand the factorization of the difference of two cubes, right? And to do that, if you factorize alpha cube minus beta cube, it's simply alpha minus beta into what? Alpha squared plus beta squared plus what? Alpha beta. If you look at your algebraic identities at the end of this video, right? Don't be afraid. At the end of this video, I'll show you the derivation. I just want to get to my point now, right? So that will be alpha minus beta into what? This. So you can notice that there's another identity we can get from this, which is what? Alpha plus beta all squared minus what? 2 alpha beta, then what? Plus alpha beta. Do you understand? Which will be what? Alpha minus beta into what? Alpha plus beta all squared minus 2 alpha beta plus alpha beta is what? Minus alpha beta, just like doing minus 2 plus 1, which is what? Minus 1. And at the end of the day, we can simply substitute. So let's say we are given this equation x squared negative 6x plus 8 equal to 0. What will you do? You find the difference between the roots. So that means that alpha cube minus beta cube will be equal to the square root of what? Alpha plus beta all squared minus what? 4 alpha beta, right? Into alpha plus beta all squared minus what? Alpha beta. You get? So what's alpha plus beta for this equation here is what? Alpha plus beta is simply 6, while alpha beta was what? Is what? 8, because that's c over a. So on direct substitution, we'll have the square root of alpha plus beta, which is that 6 squared minus 4 into what? 8, right? That's into alpha plus beta all squared, which is what? 6 squared negative what? Alpha beta, which is what? 8. So that would be alpha cube minus beta cube is equal to the square root of what? 36 minus 32, right? Times 6 squared is what? 36, right? That's 36 minus 8. And then this is the square root of 4, right? Times 32. So that means that alpha cube minus beta cube is equal to what? Plus or minus 2 times what? 32, which is what? Plus or minus 64, right? So the difference between the roots, right? You understood what we did there, right? So the difference between the cubes of the roots is what? Plus or minus 64, because alpha could be any value. It could be whether maybe the greater value or maybe the lesser value, so we don't know. So that's why it's plus or minus 64 based on this. You can say this is a real situation. So plus or minus what? 64 is the value. And if we should even test it, remember the equation we're given, x squared negative 6x plus 8 equal to 0. And if you solve this equation quadratically, you will see that the roots are what? Minus 2 and what? Minus 4. So if you find the difference between the roots, it will be what? Minus 4 raised to power 3 minus what? Minus 2 raised to power 3. You get? Sorry. Wait a minute. What are we getting here? If we solve this now, right? If we solve this now, it tells us that x is equal to 2 or what? 4. So what do you notice is the problem here? So we found the square root of 36 minus 32, and 36 minus 8 is what? Is 28, right? It's 28. So 28 times, so this is supposed to be plus or minus 2 times what? 28, which is what? Plus or minus 56. Do you get? So these are some of the mistakes you can make. So when you are given an equation, but just try your best to be careful, because it's possible that the equation you are given to may not have real roots. So you cannot comfortably test, right? So 36 minus 8 is 28, and then 28 times plus or minus 2 is what? 56. So now let's try it. So I mistake 32 for 28. That was wrong. So it's 28 times plus or minus 2, which is plus or minus 56. And then if you should try it for this, for the equation x squared negative 6x plus 8 equal to 0, x is equal to 2 or x is equal to 4, right? So if you find the difference between the roots, it's going to be what? 4 cubed minus what? 2 cubed, right? So that will be 64 minus what? 2 cubed is what? 8. And 64 minus 8 is what? 56. And if we now do it the other way around, if we now do 2 cubed minus what? 4 cubed, what are we going to get? It's going to be 8 minus 64, which is what? Minus what? 56. So that's why we are writing what? That's why we wrote plus or negative what? 56 as the difference between the cubes of the roots. So I want us to attempt this last question now. So if you are given x squared negative 5x plus 6 equal to 0, I ask for alpha cube minus beta cube. What was that simply? As alpha cube minus beta cube is equal to what? Alpha minus beta into alpha plus beta squared minus what? Alpha beta. So that will be the square root of alpha plus beta all squared minus 4 alpha beta into alpha plus beta all squared minus what? Alpha beta. So what's alpha plus beta here? Alpha plus beta is 5 and alpha beta is what? 6. So that will be the square root of what? 5 squared minus 4 into what? 6. And then into 5 squared negative 6, right? So that will be square root of 25 minus what? 24. And then that will be 25 minus 6. Then that will be the square root of 1 times what? 19, because 25 minus 6 is 19. That will be 19 times square root of 1, which is 19 times plus or minus 1, because square root of 1 is plus or minus 1. So that means that alpha cube minus beta cube is plus or minus what? 19, right? Do you understand? So now I said I will tell you how it's alpha cube, why alpha cube minus beta cube is equal to alpha minus beta into alpha squared plus beta squared plus alpha beta, right? So what we simply do here is that if looking at this now, you can see that x minus beta is a factor of alpha cube minus beta cube, right? Because if we should equate x alpha minus beta to 0, we'll have alpha is equal to beta, and if you substitute that, that will be beta cube minus beta cube, which is what? 0. And that's like in agreement with the remainder theorem. So we can now divide alpha minus beta by what? Alpha cube minus beta cube. So what's alpha cube divided by alpha is what? Alpha squared, right? So multiply alpha squared by this, it will be what? Alpha cube minus alpha squared times beta is what? That will be alpha squared beta, and then you subtract, so this will be 0. Then this is 0 minus minus, that's positive alpha squared beta, because that's 0 minus minus alpha squared beta, then negative beta cube. Then you now divide through again by alpha, so that's alpha squared beta divided by alpha, and that will be what? Alpha beta, right? So alpha beta times alpha will be alpha squared beta, and alpha beta minus beta will be what? Negative alpha beta squared. And then on subtraction again, this will be 0, it will be what? Plus alpha beta squared negative what? Beta cube. Then on dividing again, alpha beta squared divided by alpha will be what? Positive beta squared. Do you understand? And then on multiplying, it will be what? Alpha beta squared minus what? Beta cube. And then if you now subtract again, you find out that the remainder is what? 0. So that explains why alpha cube minus beta cube is equal to alpha minus beta into alpha squared plus alpha beta plus what? Beta squared. Thank you so much for watching this video, right? Please do well to subscribe by clicking the subscribe button. It's free of charge. Like and share this video. Thank you so much once again for watching, and have a nice day.